Welcome back to Off the Rack Rebellion, the podcast where we talk about costuming and how to take everyday finds and incorporate them into your everyday cosplay. Kate, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Billy?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm really looking forward to talking about today's episode, and hopefully it's not going to be too long. I have a lot to say.
Good. I've been really excited about this episode. It's been in our doc for a little while now, and it's like really well researched. I've read through some of it, but some of it
Yeah.
I wanted to hear from
Yeah.
from you because this is your, I would say, your expertise. I'm gonna
This
let you like
is,
run with this one.
yeah,
Like,
totally. This is
yeah.
my secrets of the scavenger. So a lot of people are always asking me, how did you find that? And I mean, I'm wearing something today that I actually didn't find. Liam actually found this and recommended it to me. And so I
Oh,
was like,
I
yep.
know the one. I know the
Yeah.
one. I know the one.
But there are so many things that people are like, how did you
We're
find
both
that?
kind
And
of wearing
I
kind
don't
of
know.
smocks.
I
Anyway.
kind of looked at that. I was like, oh, we're matching. So yeah, I feel like there are many different things. I feel like when you're in person and you're just thrifting, you find what's there, right? Like maybe you've
Right.
got a list that you're going off of. I always keep a list on my phone, just reminding myself of everything that I'm looking for
Right.
like cosplay or for Disney bounding or for like the Ren Fair or whatever. It's always, or for the house. It's always there. But sometimes there's a very specific thing. And if I can't find it a few trips to the thrift store, I look online.
Okay.
And so these are my methods. So, but you mentioned a couple that you've got for the
Yeah.
UK too.
I wanted
Yeah.
to mention I wanted to mention two things before we get started because
Yeah.
like I think you're gonna do a really well-rounded like sort of whole world thing. But there is one of these online retailers that's all secondhand stuff. It's called
Oh,
messinahembry.com. And
interesting.
I'm like 99% sure it's UK specific. So if you're out
Okay.
in the UK, that's a good place to check. You find some really good stuff at really good prices, and with great searchability and all that stuff. They kind of they talk themselves up as being like the place to find like designer stuff for
Mhm.
cheap, but I find like you can find all types of stuff. So it isn't like, you're not going there to find like, Saint Laurent or something. Like
Mhm.
you can find like I've been looking at a lot of like, gilets as they call them here, a lot of
Okay.
vests.
Okay. Oh, gilet. Oh, I want to start
Gilet.
using
That's what
that
they,
one.
yeah, I know that's what they call it here. They don't call it a vest is like something else. And so they call it a
Yeah.
gilet. So when
I
I
love it.
search here, I have to search for gilet. And I have to do that shoulder
Yeah.
thing or else it
Yeah.
doesn't
You
come up
gotta. Yeah.
correctly.
The French doesn't translate unless you're doing this.
Unless you're doing this. I'm doing a shoulder thing for the people just listening. A little shoulder shimmy and a hand thing. Anyway, it's great. Watch it on YouTube as well.
Or choreography.
Um, the the second thing is, and this is a recent find of mine, it's a website called goodonyou.eco, right?
I'm looking that up too.
And what I love about this site, it's not a shopping site. It is a sort of rating site, essentially, right? And they go
Yeah.
off of 3 scores. And this is a good place for you to check out if you're wanting to shop more sustainably or shop in any kind of those ways. This will give you a out of 5 rating for any company. You can look up any company,
Wow.
from Saint Laurent to G Star, which I
Okay.
have pulled up. One that we frequent often, and they've
Yeah.
got great stuff.
Yeah.
Um, they score on planet, people, and animals. So their impact on the planet, how they treat their employees,
Wow.
and how they treat animals in general. And that could be like whether they use animal products or test on animal, I have no idea, but they have those
Okay.
3 different scorings. G star is 4, 4, 4, so
Oh,
not bad. Yeah,
that's
4
really
out of
good to
5, 4
know.
out of 5, 4 out of 5
Yeah.
down the board.
Okay. That's pretty good.
I
Yeah.
haven't encountered a 555,
Okay.
so
I'm curious.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious to
Yeah,
see what
yeah,
a
totally.
555 is. Anyway,
Right.
those are the 2 things that I wanted to add, and also
Okay.
we were talking about like these weird brands. Always Trustpilot
Yes.
your search.
Yes.
You know, you'd be
Yeah.
surprised also some of these rinky-dink websites are actually
Mhm.
reputable.
Yeah, and
Trust
vice
Pilot will tell you.
versa. The ones that look totally legit are not. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely
So,
check it out before you order from somebody you don't know or that your friends haven't been like, "I got this and it's amazing," right? Like,
yep.
yeah, for sure. So, um, yeah, let's launch into it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start with my kind of my top to bottom
Okay.
with what I use the most. If I'm not finding it in person, I go and I use eBay. And I feel like part of the reason why eBay is so good is because they've been an online retailer for so long.
Mhm.
Um, I use their app on my phone, so I can't speak as much to just using like the website on your computer. It's probably gonna look a little different. But a few things that I really absolutely love about using eBay are that first and foremost, you are able to sort specifically between pre-owned, new with tags, new without tags, new with defects.
Mhm.
And then, there's also just a not specified because when I've sold things on eBay as well. And when you're listing, there is so much criteria that you can select. You can
Mhm.
even put in like a UPC number for the item
Yeah.
that you're selling. Like there's so much stuff to be searchable. I just find it the easiest place to search. And I always, because I am often looking for the pre-owned. I want something that's used, or sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, new with defects. Like, yeah, if it was ruined in a store and damaged, but I'm just gonna cut it up anyway.
Right.
Totally. That's perfect for what I'm doing. So that's my it also helps to filter out just those little companies that are really, like, selling stuff from China, right?
Drop
Which
shippers.
yeah, totally,
Yep.
and I'm just like, I'm not interested in that stuff. I want the secondhand. So you can also search by, speaking of which, location, which is really nice.
Mhm.
So I've got the options either worldwide, North America, US only, and then you can put in specific locations. You can
Mhm.
also sort once you say, okay, search, you can sort by closest location to you, which is kind of
Mhm.
handy because if you're like, I need this by Tuesday and it's
Mhm.
Saturday, you can always message someone and be like, hey, notice we're both in Seattle. Do you ever, allow somebody to pick up? Totally fine. If you don't, when could you get this in the mail?
Right.
And you could maybe potentially get it overnight because they're shipping it from like across town. I have had a couple things I'm just like, oh, they happen to be in Seattle. I'll check it out and see how long it takes. And it doesn't take very long from in,
Yeah.
if the seller is able to like, yeah, I'm going to the post office tomorrow. I'm, printing the shipping label as soon as you buy it. Um, I find that folks are very responsive on eBay as well. And
Mhm.
again, I think it is because it is such an old selling platform. I think a lot of people have been using it for a long time. And so to me, it's pretty easy to be like, hey, I've got a question about this thing.
Yeah.
I saw in the pictures this, it looks a little more purple, but you have it listed as brown. Could you tell me a little bit more about, I know this is arbitrary, but can you tell me a little bit more about that color? Or can you provide a photo of it in natural light for me? Or if the measurements aren't listed, hey,
Mhm.
just curious. I see it's a small, but gosh, small. We've talked
What
about
does
this.
that mean? Yeah.
Yeah, what does that mean? And it drives me crazy when people go, "Runs true to size," and I find that more on, some other sites that I'll mention. I
Mhm.
find measurements more on eBay just in general as well because it's another criteria you can put in as you're
Right.
listing your item. And so even if people don't put it in those boxes, often they have it in the description because
Yeah.
you can click on like read full description. Um, and then, there's a little type up about it. Or there's also always an area where it lists just kind of like the basics of like, you can select material, color, cut, like, all this stuff, and, like, when they're going into cut, for various articles of clothing, like, let's talk about pants, it would be, like, wide leg, cropped, bell bottom, skinny, like, just, like, all these different options that the seller
Yeah.
knows to click already, and it just, I think, prompts people to tell you more about the thing. So, I find that there's really the best descriptions on eBay.
Yeah.
A lot of people also are getting more into just, like, taking pictures and, like, placing a ruler down. I'm like, "Fine, that's great. That's
Yes.
at least something to go off of, right?" Like,
Yeah. You
whether
have
it's
some reference. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally, because that's always very important. I had just ordered something for my husband a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm looking at this, what's your size?" He's like, "Oh, well, my pants size is da 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 da." like, okay, well, it says it's 2 inches bigger, but I could always take it in. He's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess it might not fit me. Well, when it showed up, it was 2 inches smaller than
Oh,
what would fit him.
no.
And so, because I was like, oh my God, rookie move. Why didn't I measure you? I know my measurements by heart because I
Right.
sew things for myself. I am always
Right.
shopping online. He never takes his measurements and he thought that pant size equaled actual inches. So, folks, it
Oh,
doesn't.
no. Oh,
Never.
no.
Like, even inseams, it's not, even if it's a
Mhm.
32 inseam, it might not
Mm-mm.
actually. Get yourselves sewing tape measures, like,
Mhm.
they're invaluable. Also
I've
the
got a
little
bunch.
retractable ones are fun to play with.
I
Yeah,
love
right?
those.
I
Those are
know,
the ones
don't
I have.
me
They look
when
I
my
have this
little guy I know the little discs. When my little
they
guy
look
was
very
young,
Star
he
Warsy.
had his own. I know, right? Yeah, he had
Yeah.
his own because he played with mine so much.
Yeah.
So, like, it's really important to know your measurements, but I think that eBay is really good if you are definitely trying to find something that's gonna fit you. You need the most information. So, obviously, you can also search by material.
Mhm.
Word of caution, a lot of people, Billy and I are in love with linen. Ian Grayson says that we say linen in a very specific way. So I'm
Linen?
gonna like
What
guess
how
you and
does he say it?
I know
Linen.
he's like,
Linen.
no, it's just kinda like roll. We say it just like,
Oh.
oh, linen. Like, we just get very like
It's
apparently
yeah, it's the love
leather
for
as
linen.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Anyway, so
coming
if you
through.
are like us and you are searching for a very specific material because maybe you want to
Mhm.
dye it, so you
Mhm.
do need one of those natural materials, don't always trust somebody just saying, "Oh yeah, it's linen." Because I've received a lot of items. Actually, there was just recently I shared a photo where I did a Disney bound of Jenny, who was cut from the first Star Wars
Oh, right,
episode,
right, right. I
first
saw that, yeah.
episode 0 originally, right?
Mhm.
The Star Wars. And she had this wrap rust tunic, and I found
Mhm.
this orange one that, was definitely listed as linen. Guys, it's totally synthetic, and I was
Oh,
okay with
wow.
that. Yeah, but a lot of people because it actually feels like a really gorgeous gauze material, not linen
Okay.
at all, but it's actually a synthetic, and I was like,
Right.
"Okay," like, it's nothing. It doesn't matter really what color it is. It's the close enough for a Disney bound for me.
Right.
But it's just a
Yeah,
really good example.
because linen is a weave, right? It's not
Linen
actually
is the fiber.
is the fiber. Okay.
Linen is the because it comes from the flax plant. So a lot of people think it's the weave. It's not. Linen
Okay.
can be woven into any weave. You can get,
Got it.
you could get I'm trying to think of like different things, but you
The
could
same
make
as
a
wool, right?
denim
Wool
out of,
can
yeah. Wool can
yeah,
be
you can make
woven
a
into
denim
a
out of
bunch
wool.
of
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Got it.
But it's the material. So
Right.
so a lot of people don't understand that. And so if that's important to you, definitely follow up and be like, "Hey, do you have a picture of the fabric tag?"
Right.
Or a lot of times I'll just be like, "Hey, is this 100% linen or a blend?" And then they come back and they're like, "Oh, actually it's acrylic." I'm like, "Yeah, I thought so."
Actually, it's wood.
So
It's made out of
I
wood. It's a
know.
chair. It's actually a chair.
I'm
Yeah.
so
It's
yeah,
like,
I mean,
"Wait,
I
what?"
do think I'm like, how do you not know this? But I realize that the normal person who isn't obsessed with fabric content doesn't know, and that's okay. I mean, it's an educational moment. So if you are searching, like maybe you're going to Batu in July and you have listened to us talk about how great linen is and you're looking for it, make sure you see that tag that says linen. Um, so you can filter by material, color, size, clothing details. You can search by sleeve length, pant leg style, skirt length, neckline. They have like different, like boat neck,
Wow.
crew neck,
Mhm.
like just all of these different, very V neck, like everything. And I'm just like, sweet. You can add in closures. Like, how does it
Mhm.
close? So if you're looking for a jacket that you want to cut the zipper off of, you can
Mhm.
search zipper. Or you can search hook and
Right.
eye is another one. So if you want to just have
Right.
a vest that has those
Hidden placket, I'm sure is
yeah,
like yeah.
yeah, totally.
That's
All
one
that
I
kind of
use,
stuff.
yeah.
You can search that, which is why it's like so fantastic for Batu bounding, for, you know, closet cosplays, for this kind of like everyday Star Wars stuff, because it's really you can find that specific thing a lot easier. So I really love it. A couple other things that they have like, different sellers will have different shipping options. So sometimes they'll ship this, US priority mail is kind of like one of the faster options, possibly the fastest if you're not paying for 2 day in the US. But recently the United States Postal Service has like unveiled a really low tier, slow option. And a lot of people on eBay have switched to that just because people want to pay less for shipping. So
Right.
definitely, if you are in a hurry, message the seller and ask them what the shipping option is and be like, "Hey, if I paid for it, could you bump it up?" And they can go
Right.
in their listing and switch what their shipping option is
Mhm.
if they're an experienced seller and have the right priority mailbox and all that stuff.
Right.
But usually I found that people are willing to do that. So definitely check out like it'll also give you an item, you know, receive by guess. And so that's kind of
Right.
nice because it's not like, I mean, I feel like in this day and age, so many people are used to Amazon Prime where it's like, click, I know it's going to be here in no later than 2 days. So it's nice if you're like me and trying not to buy from them anymore, but you do
Same.
need something like within the week, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, so for Comic Con when I was crunching, it was like, okay, I need these feathers right away. Oh,
Mm.
look. This like arrival window is within my build time. Okay, great. I'm gonna try for that. And it is testing your luck still a little bit of like, unless you're messaging the seller being like, can you ship this tomorrow?
Right.
But it works. So there's also a couple other things. Some sellers accept returns, some don't.
Right.
Be really aware of that. I had, yeah, somebody who I had sold something and then they turned around, they were like, "Well, I didn't like it." I'm like, "Well, I don't accept returns just because I don't want to deal with it." And they're like,
Right.
so then they reported me to eBay being like, "They changed their policy after I bought it." I'm like, "Whatever, just send it back. It's not a big deal." I ended up selling it for more later on anyway because
There you
like
go.
it was
Mm.
like
There you
whatever.
go.
But definitely look because some do offer free returns. And so like sometimes when you bookmark something, eBay will send you these little like, "Hey, you still thinking about this thing?" And
Mhm.
sometimes they'll send you an email. It's like, "Hey, this seller offers free returns." And you're like, "Oh, okay. All right. You're sweetening the deal a little bit. All
Yeah,
right. All
yeah,
right."
exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
alright, I'll
Yeah.
see how okay.
Yeah,
Let's
another
see if that
fantastic
neckline
yeah,
is right.
yeah,
Let's see if
totally,
that
like, if this
neckline's right.
doesn't fit me, I can send it back, totally, and oftentimes it's free returns, so, like, that's really important.
Yeah.
Um, items sometimes will go on sale, which is really nice, and then
Mhm.
you also on certain ones like, oftentimes I will list something and I'll allow the buyer to make an offer.
Right. Right.
And so sometimes there are thresholds that you can set. Like I'll do that on mine. I won't go below like a certain percentage. But if they've got that make an offer button and you're like, I don't know, try it. Like you
Yeah.
may as well. Like
You
I've
never
been
know.
surprised sometimes, been like, oh, okay, well, I'll offer this. And it's like, oh wow, they accepted that. Sweet. That is a
Yeah.
deal. So I really like that option. And there's also an option for like some sellers choose to like have part of their sales go to charity. So, if that's something that you're
Right.
important to you, you can search by that. Like, like
Yeah.
in your like little criteria, you can click on portion goes to charity. So that's great. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of criteria on eBay.
Yeah.
I think that their app is also pretty easy to use and to find all these things. So yeah, I've liked it a lot.
I've found
Definitely.
some great things. I found one of my favorite
Yeah.
vests on there. I think it was the first one I ever cropped, and that, like, started me on this journey. I also found my, well, my flight suit for my
Yeah.
Mando, my first Mando, um, I found on there, which was also secondhand. All of these items were
Yeah.
secondhand. I knew I was gonna be cutting into them, so I didn't want anything,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
new out
Why
of the
buy
gate.
something new and super expensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you can find great things on there. That vest, God, I haven't worn it in forever, but I should, um, is one of my favorites. It still
Yeah.
is one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and, that's where it came from. I got it for, like, $5. I
Oh my
mean,
god.
come
Yeah,
on.
right?
Yeah.
Totally. And that is the thing. I've noticed that like a couple different like sites will have kind of different prices and I'll talk about that too. But yeah, you can definitely like talk people down or you can search that like low to high price if you're like, man, yeah.
Mhm.
You can also set it where you're like, I don't want to pay over 50 bucks, so don't show me anything over 50 bucks.
Right,
You can put
right.
that into the
You could
search.
also,
It's
like,
nice.
search for that brand and that
Mhm.
size and see if someone else has another one
Yes,
out there,
I
people have
always
asked me yeah.
always do that. Yes.
People have asked me like, "Oh,
Yes.
where did you get this?" And I'm like, "Well, I got
Mhm.
it on eBay, but it is a,
Yeah.
whatever. It is
Yeah.
this brand, this, that, and the other." Like, you can search for that and see if
Yeah.
you can find another one,
Totally.
you know?
You can save searches as well. So
Yep.
that's kinda nice. So it's like, "Oh, man, I still haven't found that pair," maybe it's a pair of Pozu boots they've stopped making, but you're
Yeah.
watching for them, and so you can save that and, like, it'll come up, which is nice. A couple of the different companies do that too, but again,
Yeah.
I just find eBay is the easiest to work with. I would definitely remember so, like, yeah, if you find something you're interested in, like it, also because that seller often will be like, "Oh, I'll send a 15% discount," or
Right.
whatever, right? And then
Right.
you can also sometimes they'll let you barter. So sometimes it'll be like accept or sometimes it'll be, oh, what's it called?
Counter, right?
Counter,
Isn't there
thank
a
you.
counter offer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be counter. Yeah, and that's up to the seller whether they're willing to allow you to
Mhm.
counter or not. But sometimes you're like, well, if they've got counter on there, heck yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and offer $5 less. Go for it.
Yeah.
Like try it. You might be surprised. Um, one other really great thing about eBay and also one of the other companies I'm going to talk about is that you can dispute an order and it's pretty easy. And I've done that a couple times when it's like I have done that for somebody selling something it's not linen. They assured me it was 100% linen, and it
Right.
shows up and it's got the tag that says it's polyester. And I'm like,
Right.
"Hey, it's not." And you just take a picture of whatever's happened or if it was damaged in the mail or anything like that, and it opens a dispute. And it's usually pretty easy to get that resolved. eBay will send you a shipping label, so the shipping is free back to the seller. There is a window of time you've gotta get it back in by, so be aware of
Mhm.
that. And then once they accept it, like, you get refunded. So that is really important when you are buying online, sight unseen, right? I mean, like, you're seeing pictures,
Right.
but you're not feeling something. You're also
Right.
trusting another person to know what they're talking about and to be honest with you. Um, which takes me to the next one, which is Poshmark is the next company that I use the most. They're probably equal for me, actually.
Okay.
Um, Poshmark, I find it different in that I don't fully understand Poshmark. Poshmark has, like, these posh parties that are, like, these live video things that you go to and, like, these live auctions. I don't use any of those, so
Okay.
I'm not an expert in Poshmark, but I do sell on there, I do buy on there. It's they wanted to mix social media and,
Right.
like, secondhand selling,
That's what
which
I
is
remember from Poshmark, where
yeah.
it was like at I don't wanna say the start, but I do sort of vaguely remember something of, like, people sort of becoming Poshmark,
Y
like, influencers, like, you have your own
yeah.
shop and, like,
Yes.
they're
Yeah, and
sought after because what they find is, like, amazing because 'cause they're, like,
yeah.
great stylists or
Yeah,
whatever.
I think a lot of, like, folks selling Loungefly and things like that too are,
Oh,
like, on
okay.
there because it's like they have a following, like you said, and you get followers, like,
Right.
automatically 'cause I kept being like when I was first using, I'm like, "Why am I getting these notifications that people are following me?" Well, Poshmark automatically when you sign up for an account, it automatically, like, has you follow people. They're just arbitrary accounts.
Sure.
And it's really and I don't even know really how to there's some special, like, tab you can go into to see who you follow, like, what they're posting, but, like, I don't really care.
Right.
So I don't. But then, like, sometimes, like, especially if it's a day where I am searching for something and I've liked a whole bunch of stuff, all of a sudden I will get a ton of followers. I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I don't know what followers do exactly. But the other thing is that people will come in and will share your listings. And I think you're supposed to go into their accounts and share their listings, but I never
Okay.
do because I don't have time. So if you're somebody who happens to follow me on Poshmark, I'm so sorry. But maybe someday
You're
I'll
not in it for the
start.
yeah,
I'm
for
not in it
the
for the social part because my social part is on Instagram and in
right.
Blue Sky if I remember to do that more.
Yeah.
But
Me too.
yeah, yeah, we'll get there. After this March Disney Bound challenge is over, it's my goal. But, so Poshmark is interesting because I think that so another interesting aspect of Poshmark is that if you buy something and it didn't work out, you can easily just click relist it, and it will use all the photos from the previous person you bought it from
Okay.
automatically. You just set your price and you just click post it. So it's really easy for someone to be like, "Oh my gosh, these pants didn't fit me the way I wanted." Sure, reposh it, and it's automatically in your closet and up
Yeah.
there for people to see, which is handy,
I
for
actually think
me.
eBay might do that as well.
They might as well. I don't
Yeah.
think it's they'll, Poshmark will, like, send you messages being like, "Hey, did those pants not fit? Reposh it
Okay.
now." So they really are, like, trying to push this, like, just keep it in the rotation, like, keep it here in
Right. If it
Poshmark,
doesn't
make it
fit,
super
yeah.
easy. Yeah.
Right, right,
So
right.
that is kinda nice. So
That's good.
um I do find that it's kinda interesting because a lot of people will just click that reposh it, and there's a canned, like, "Bought it from so and so, loved it, but ready to rotate for something new," and that's the
Mhm.
canned, and I'm like, "Well, you didn't tell me anything about it."
Right, you didn't tell
So
me,
you
why.
can then scroll down, and so, like, on the item in Poshmark, if you scroll down, you'll see the comments section, and the comments section is really important in Poshmark because then people will start asking questions.
Okay.
So maybe somebody else has already beat me to the punch of like, "Hey, what's the actual measurement across the waist of these pants?" Or like, "What's the actual inseam?" Stuff like that. And so then that actually becomes really important to me as the person who's trying to buy it. And if there's no comments and I'm curious, then I go ahead and I put a comment in there.
Right, because 'cause you'd wanna
So
know, it's not that you're trying to put it back into the rotation, like, what if those pants are haunted?
yeah.
What if they're haunted? You
Exactly.
know?
Well,
"Oh,
they're
I bought these
cursed, the
pants, but
cursed
guess what?
suit from
It has a poltergeist."
You don't wanna deal with that poltergeist, you wanna pass it on.
No, reposh it.
Just
Exactly.
rewatch it. So it's very but, like, those comments are very valuable because sometimes I'm like, "Well, this the seller didn't know to, like, put any or didn't wanna take the time to put any information about this item." They just were like, "Oh,
Right.
yep, it's Gap, it's a size small, fits true to size." You're like, "Oh, lame." But then someone else has already answered that question. Yeah, if you are selling, folks that are listening, please, please, please put the measurements and things like that in the details. It's my biggest pet peeve. And so sometimes when I'm like, there's a cosplay I'm looking to finally finish assembling out of various items of clothing, and I'm looking for a pair of boots. And there was one day when I was like, I think I messaged like 20 people about these pair of boots, being like, what's the heel height? And how tall is the entire shaft of this boot? Like, I need, and
Right.
they're like, oh, well, hits me above the knee. I'm like, yeah, so our legs are different lengths. I'm like, that doesn't tell you anything. And I'm just always amazed, but I guess, like, if people aren't making their own clothing or something like that, they don't know, I guess,
Yeah.
but just I'm always amused by, like
It's above the knee, but I'm also 9 feet tall, so
I
you could
know,
probably
and I'm like,
live in this boot.
I yes, and I'm like, I have a long torso and shorter legs, so maybe it'll hit me higher, but maybe it won't hit me at the
Right.
height I need, whatever. So with Poshmark, yeah, so another major bonus of Poshmark is that the shipping automatically they have a deal with the US Postal Service, so
Okay.
sellers can ship in any package with a Poshmark printed, label, and it's
Mhm.
automatically priority mail. And
Nice.
so you get it fast. So if I
Okay.
am looking for an article of clothing I don't wanna do Amazon, but and the stores don't have it, I will go to Poshmark because I'm like, if that and I'll message the seller and be like, "Hey, I'm interested in this. How soon can you ship?" Because a
Mhm.
lot of them do have, like, these, like, side hustle businesses or their main hustle business, and they're like, "Yeah, I ship every day." Or
Right.
some of them are like, "I ship on Tuesdays and Thursdays." So it's really good to just follow up with them, but you can potentially get stuff pretty fast, which is nice.
Okay.
Even from across the country, I'll get stuff on the East Coast that just takes a couple days.
Are
So
they US only?
I believe that they have different locations, I think, because I've
Okay.
come across things online that are Canadian, but if I've searched it in my Poshmark app, it doesn't bring it up. So, and I
I
don't know if
see.
I might have set a location when I am like automatically signed up because that's a good
Right.
thing to watch. So when I'm shopping Poshmark, I'm only getting stuff from inside the US just
Okay.
automatically. But if you're new to Poshmark, pay attention to that because I have been using it so long that I don't remember exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So, but that's another thing is that you can save your size, which is nice. I think you might be able to do that in eBay too. I just haven't done it. Lots of
I
sellers.
think it does, yeah.
Yeah, I think it does, but
Mhm.
I've got it like it's super easy. The way they've got it set up in Poshmark, I find super easy. And then to go in and change it, you can also set up because I'm shopping for my kids and my husband, so I can also save sizes in kids and in
Mhm.
quote unquote men's and women's.
Right.
Um, Lots of sellers will, as soon as you like it, they will send you a discount or they'll send you a message being like, "Hey, bundle items for a discount," which means if you like several things in their closet, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, well, the whole value of this is $50, but, I'll send you these 3 things for 35," something like that.
Okay.
Which can be handy if you're looking to just, like, buy clothes, I think, but for me, I'm always like, "Well, there's just this one thing I need from your store because it's for cosplay," right?
Right, it's very
Um,
specific,
it's
yeah.
very specific, I just need this belt. Like, but the offer button, it's always there on listings, and so, like,
Okay.
some descriptions will say, like, "Price is firm." I'll still like it, and then sometimes people will still send me something. One of the most important details to watch on Poshmark is to scroll down on the listing to the seller's name at the bottom, and it
Mhm.
will tell you the last time they were active. Because unfortunately, my biggest gripe with Poshmark is that a bunch of people will list things and then they just never decide to do it, and Poshmark doesn't clean out their accounts for some reason that are
Uh-huh.
inactive, and so I'll find, like, the perfect jacket, but they were last active in October of 2016, and I'm like, "Well, I'm never getting that jacket from that person." And
Yeah,
that's when I take screenshots and then search through Google to try and find the
right.
thing. But pay attention to that because I have, like, at first when I was getting used to using them, it was like, "Oh, man, this is the perfect vest, yes," and I would click buy, and then you'll get notifications from Poshmark being like, "It's taking your seller longer to ship it," and blah, 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 and then they'll
Mm,
also send you a notice that's like, "Hey, it's been past our shipping time, you can click this and cancel the
to
order."
cancel,
Yeah, and
yeah,
then I
that
would go in
after
and be
you've
like,
lost so much
"Yeah."
time, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm like, "Oh, I didn't get that jacket 'cause the person is not active anymore." So definitely
Wow.
always pay attention to that. You can search by recently listed, recently edited, and then
Mhm.
price low to high.
Right,
So when I go in and search these days, I like to do low to high, but I read the last active for every item I'm interested in.
right.
And then, I mean, like, it's always nice when it's like, "Last active this hour, yes." I'm like, "Perfect."
That
But, within,
that
like, a
seems
week.
like it seems like it would be such an easy bit of code
I know,
to
right?
kick out people
Knowing
that haven't been
nothing.
active in the last 3
Mhm.
months, 6 months,
Yeah,
whatever, you
or,
know?
like, at least 3
A
years
year.
because if
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
honestly, sellers are from 2016, and I'm like, I mean, that's been a
That's
long
9 years.
time." Yeah, so it's like,
Yeah,
okay, not getting that. So definitely pay attention to that. Um, let's see here. So you cannot search by location from what I've found.
right.
You can't
Seems
search
like it
by
locks you
material.
in for a location, right?
Yeah, it kinda locks you in, yeah. You can't search by material, which is one of my huge obviously for me, it's like, it's so much
Mhm.
harder. You can search it in the description, but then so I'll be like, I'm already shopping for Ren Fair for this summer, so I'm looking for a green tunic for my husband, so I'm like, "Green linen tunic," and then you can go ahead and say green as well as one of your options, but when it comes up as linen, you've just gotta read through the descriptions and look at the photos
Right,
and hope that they were telling the truth. And then ask questions.
right.
But there's a little bit more work on your end that way. You can't search specifically for pre-owned, only new with tags or all conditions. And so I
Okay.
find that there's lots of those, what is it called? Fast drop shipping or that
Drop
you
shipping.
drop shipping? Yeah, so I find that there's a lot and even when you're scrolling through, like, it'll be all of a sudden there's, like, 15 listings of the same damn photo, and you're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, scroll, scroll, I wish I didn't have to, like, scroll through these," but here I am because
Right,
I'm already shopping for Helsicon for this fall, and I'm like, "What fancy dress am I gonna wear?" So I'm, like, already searching for that, and I'm like, "Oh my god," there's, like and I'll be like, "Okay, I've seen this one, I've seen this one, I've seen this one," like, I just want the used. So there is that, but, the other thing, it is a little bit more work. You're supposed to, on eBay, rate all of your and I'm always getting emails being like, "Hey, you need to go back and rate these." I'm like, "I know, I'm so sorry." And that helps sellers because it gives other
right.
people like, "Oh, this is a trustworthy person. Look at their percentage of rating." On Poshmark, you have to. So,
Okay.
it'll give you an email like, "Hey, your order has arrived. Go accept it and rate it." And then sometimes I forget because like life happens. I haven't checked the mail in 2 days and then it sits on the counter for another 3 days or whatever. And then it'll ding back and be like, "Hey, you need to rate this purchase," or like they would appreciate a
Right.
rating. So like this on the seller's end, Poshmark holds the sales until they get the rating or
Mhm.
until a certain time has passed. So to be kind to that seller, rate it as soon as you open it.
Right.
you know, you can super easily dispute an item. So I literally just this week had a package show up that was empty. And
Oh,
that
no.
I know. And I was like, okay, did I like, not check to make sure this is a real person enough? Or note to people who are selling, if you're using the really small boxes that are provided by the US Postal Service for priority mail, they have these little tabs that close the ends. You need to put some tape on that tab as well because anybody can just open it up. I get so many of them that are just like, they just close it and they just put the little tab in and they're like, okay, and they ship it. So either somebody got into it and
So it's
stole
like
it or
open. Yeah.
I know, yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
like a
like
like a
it's not
cereal
sealed.
box,
Yeah, it's like
like
a cereal. Exactly. It's like a cereal box. And
oh my god.
I'm like, it's a little stronger than a cereal box. I'm like, you really need to
Yeah,
ship it like
but
this, but I get them all the time. And so, whether somebody got in there and got it or whether it was like some scam seller that, yeah, shipped doesn't know the Poshmark. It was easy to click a button, take a picture, send it, and like I swear within a couple hours, like Poshmark was like, "We are refunding you and the seller because I said that it was an open package." Um, so you know, if you're a seller and something happens, it seems like Poshmark is pretty good to work with as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
not gonna
that
penalize them for something that might have happened in
Yeah, yeah.
transit.
In
Yeah.
transit, yeah, totally, like, if somebody had, like, ripped open a package with, some scissors on a porch or something. This seemed a little bit more like maybe it was somebody with a scam, but whatever. But those are my reasons, like, they're 2 very comparable apps to me, they're very searchable. I think eBay is more searchable,
Mhm.
but I do like that pretty fast shipping from Poshmark, it's pretty
And
nice.
Poshmark is strictly clothes.
It's clothing, it's shoes, it's toys, it's household
Oh,
item yeah, you can find,
oh,
like,
okay,
blankets, you can find like, yeah, you can find other
okay.
stuff.
Home
So I
factories
have
and
found
factories,
yeah,
yeah.
I have found, some little Star Wars toys for my kid or some books
Oh,
for my
okay.
kid or something like that. Yeah, you can find
Oh,
it's not like
did
not
not
so
know that.
much like it's not as wide you're not finding auto parts like you are on eBay.
Right, right.
But,
Like me that I bought a RAF, like, transponder or whatever for a
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
You might not find that, but there's a wide range, but it's definitely I mean, honestly, like, I feel like most of my clothing recently has been coming off of Poshmark.
Okay.
There's a few other apps for sure. Mercari is, one that you
Mhm.
see advertised a lot in the US. There's no ability to sort your searches,
Okay.
and it drives me crazy because also I'll type in linen vest, and suddenly I'm getting, like, jeans bell bottoms in the search. And I'm like, this isn't even the same. Why? And so it's
Yeah.
like, it's really hard to find exactly what you're looking for unless you're like, okay, I'm looking for right now,
Jeans,
uh,
bell bottoms.
for yeah, yeah, totally. Or like red leather jacket, by Gap or whatever. And you like know who's
Okay.
making it. Sometimes that's a little easier, but for some reason Mercari, and it's like throwing in all that. I'm like, why? Make this easier. So there's no sorting. Lots of items come up that, aren't what you search for. Um, you need to select it to look at the items still available. So like it'll
Oh,
like at the top of your search, it'll be like a button you collect search only available items. Otherwise it'll show you stuff that's already been sold. I'm like, I don't want to
what?
see that this thing I wanted already sold. I only
What?
want to I don't know why. And
That's
so like
bizarre.
it's really bizarre. So I don't use Mercari very often at all. I have used it for a
Okay.
couple of like I had a big pirate party for my kids last summer and I bought like, a pound of fake pirate gold. Like that like
Okay.
but like it's just stuff that's pretty easy to find. It's not something I'm very specific about.
Okay.
Depop is another, one that I think is trying to be sorta like Poshmark. I think it's younger, hipper. I bought these at, Forever 21 and they don't fit me kinda deal or whatever.
Right.
Not a lot from what I've seen is there's not a ton of people really giving great clothing descriptions. I have found that there's a few vintage sellers on there that kinda have their shop. Um but the pros are that you can filter by US or world, category, color, size, brand, price, condition. So like new, used, excellent used, or good used. So that was kind of nice to be like, oh, I want to cut it up anyway. I may as well just search for good used and try and get
Right.
it for cheaper, right? It looks like you can do the bundling thing like on Poshmark
Mhm.
where it's like you want 3 things from the same person. So you can offer hey, for these three things, I'll give you $25 or whatever. They can offer
Right.
you something. You can sort by relevance, like newly listed, and then pricing high to low. You're not able to search by material again.
Oh,
I know, right? It's always
yeah,
like, oh, you're killing me. But I guess not the average person is so obsessed with this, apparently. Maybe that's
that's bizarre. I would think
I
there would be for a
know.
number of reasons, for
Yeah.
allergies, for, like,
Yeah.
sensory,
Mhm.
issues, for, like,
Totally.
just so much
Yeah.
stuff,
I
like,
agree. I agree. So, like, if you are a developer out there for one of these companies, you're probably never gonna
yeah.
hear this, but if you do, get on it.
We're
And then
big
the
with the developers. We're
I
we're
know.
huge
We're really big with
with the
yeah.
90%
We
of
need to get
our
sponsored
audience
by
is
these people.
developers.
Alright. Um, with, Depop, also, you don't see the shipping information until you click buy and it goes into your
Oh,
bag.
okay.
So, that is something that I was like, "Oh, man, it's just easier to, like, calculate my shipping in these other ones," which is why
Right.
I think I've bought, like, 2 things over the course of however many years off of Depop, so it's alright. ThreadUp is another one that is super popular with people, and I have my love and hate with ThreadUp.
Okay.
Um,
I think I've talked to you in the past about ThreadUp,
yeah, yeah,
and it was like a passing thing,
yeah,
because obviously I don't know much about
yeah. Because I think
all
they
of this
are
stuff. I know
only
eBay and stuff, and I
yeah.
asked you, "Hey, so have you ever used ThreadUp?" And you were like,
I was
"I've
like
never used ThreadUp in my life. I hate it." And I
no,
was
no, no,
like,
I've
"Okay,
used it, that's
alright,
why I was, like,
okay,
so
okay."
so with
I'm just
ThreadUp
kidding, I would
so
never.
ThreadUp, for anyone who doesn't know, because maybe you aren't as much of an online secondhand shopper, ThreadUp is a company where you can send your clothes to them in a couple different ways,
Mhm.
and they will take photos of them and list them for you if they accept them. So there's a few different things that drive me crazy about ThreadUp, and I'm saying that, and I just got an email this week, like, kind of putting the feels out to see if I would be, like, a collaborative seller or whatever. Anyway,
Oh,
so and I do know a couple of the Disney founders who are and who, like, are like, "Oh, I love it. I find so many things on there." I'm like, girl, I don't know." Ow. Anyway, so here's my gripe with ThreadUp. A couple
I
things.
think that's why I asked you. I
Yes.
think I saw someone that was like, "Oh, ThreadUp is, like, so
Yeah.
cool."
Yeah,
And I was like, "What do
totally,
you
and
know
so
about ThreadUp?" And you were like, "I hate them. Yeah. They
you're
send
listening
haunted items. They all
so
of their items
only
are
haunted,
haunted.
all haunted.
All
So s
haunted." Yeah, it should be called Haunt Up. They're all haunted.
oh my god, we're gonna get sued by them.
That's their that
What
no, no, no. That's their criteria. You send them stuff, if it's not haunted,
must be
they send it
cursed.
back. Yeah.
Oh my god, this needs to
I don't
be
know
like
why I got onto this haunted shirt thing.
we watch
Yeah.
we watch too much What We Do in the Shadows. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay. So 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 with ThreadUp, you can sell with them, which is awesome. You can sell with local consignment stores. But their thing is like, look how easy it is to toss it. They'll ship you a bag for a fee, or you
Mhm.
put it in a box and print a label that you print out from them. So their thing is like, it's so easy. It is easy. They take a lot of fees. So one is that
Okay.
and I did because I have such a horrible habit of being like, "This doesn't fit me," and it sits in a box for 3 years in the garage, and sometimes I'm surprised because it fits me again, but then
Okay.
also I'm also surprised going, "I think that'll fit me again." "Oh, nope, it doesn't fit me again." Okay, and so I did just ship off a bunch of stuff to them recently, also kind of to try it again for the first time in a few years for this
Right.
episode. So they
Okay.
have a new thing where it's like you can pay a little bit of money for them to accept your stuff and maybe take a few things,
Mhm.
or you can pay more money for them to maybe take your stuff, but they'll sort through it faster. And
Ooh,
it'll get like some sort of
mm,
priority listing. So whatever.
mhm.
So I know they've got to pay their people on the back end. I know it's probably not an easy job. So when you send it to them, you can pay to have your things returned that aren't accepted, or just say, "No, go ahead and donate whatever you don't take."
Okay.
So, a few years ago, we're all familiar with Pozu, right? Like, we've gotta be familiar with Pozu. They
Yeah.
partnered with Star Wars, and they made some amazing boots. They made because they were the
Mhm.
original makers of Ray's boots for the movies. And so
Mhm.
then they collaborated and said, let's offer these to the people.
They did
Uh,
Finn's boots
they did
and
Finn's
Poe's
boots.
boots
A
and Ray's
lot of us
boots.
have these boots. They also did some like I've got some actually that I need to sell because they don't fit me or my kid anymore, but like some really cool sneakers that had like X-wings on them and stuff like that, right? So
Okay.
they did a really cool job with the Star Wars stuff. So I had a pair of like Chelsea boots that I had bought from them, and I Posey doesn't fit my feet perfectly, and so
Right.
I bought these Chelsea boots that weren't Star Wars, but they were beautiful. And so I was like, "Oh, they didn't fit me, but I mean, they're new in the box. I've got the box." And, like, so I
Mhm.
tossed them into a bag with some other stuff, and I sent them to ThreadUp. When I, when they accept stuff and they sell stuff, you get it listed in your account what they set the prices. You have, like, 24
Okay.
hours to go in and be like, "You're selling this for 25? No, sell it for 40."
Right.
And so you have to, like, kinda change that, and then you get a percentage of the sale back. You don't get that whole
Mhm.
sale. So you've already paid them to go through your stuff. You've paid them to
Mhm.
maybe return the stuff they didn't take, and they're taking a commission out of your sales.
Mhm.
So when I went through my account to see what they had accepted, they did not accept these brand new Pozu boots, and they donated them. And so I emailed with a dispute. I was like, "They were in the box," and they sent me this very canned, "No, they didn't meet our criteria for nice enough items." And I'm like, "You are selling stuff that people have bought and worn and clearly are pilling from Forever 21, and you didn't
Wow.
accept a brand new in-box." Like, literally, I tried them in the house, was like, "These are too tight for my feet," and put them in the bag.
Right.
And so I was like,
And they didn't even
"You"
ask you, they just donated them?
well, donated them or did somebody take them or what? I don't know. But
Mm.
that's what I was just like, no, I don't think
That's
so."
shady.
So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, and so that was a few years ago, and that's when I was like, "No, I'm not dealing with them again. I'm not gonna
So
buy from them. I'm
that's
not gonna
why
sell." That's why I hate them because I
that's
because
why you
I
had
would
that
because I
reaction.
yes, yeah, I think it was right after that had happened that I was like, "Billy, I want" like, oh my god, lasers are, like, coming out of my eyes. I'm
That
so
makes
upset.
sense.
Like,
Yeah.
I know, and I was just like, "Oh, that is not." So and especially because I would get things from them, and other people have been like, "Oh, it's so easy to tell the size and color," and no, I've received stuff from them that they measure everything, and they take, like, studio lighting. I've gotten stuff that's like, the color is way off, the size measurements are way off, and you have to pay for your returns with them.
Wow.
So, they made the mistakes, but so this is why I'm not a huge fan of ThreadUp. Maybe they're doing
Right.
better these days, I don't know, but I still,
I'm saying no.
like oh, yeah. I was so I did just like I
I'm
said,
not
like, as
gonna
I'm
use
trying to clean out my stuff, like, a bunch of stuff that's in the garage doesn't fit me, a bunch of my stuff in the closet doesn't fit me. It's gonna be a long process to, like, go through all this clothes, so I'm like, "Fine, I'll just try this." I've got one of their
let them
bags,
do
I'll
it.
send it to
Yeah.
them. And so I did select the, like, I paid a higher upfront price to have stuff sent back this time because I was like,
Mhm.
"I'll just put it on Poshmark if they don't take it." But I also wanted to see what their process is like these days. So,
Right.
and because now
The
they're
best you
saying, like
can.
yeah, and now they're saying, like, "Oh, we don't take, we're looking for more," and they, like, list, like, really top shelf brands. They're like, "We don't take, like, Forever 21 or, Maurice's or blah, blah," and I'm like, "I'm pretty sure you have things from those brands listed on your website." So, like,
Right.
well, you still are. Yeah, so that's my gripe with ThreadUp. But anyway, you can't message anybody about a question. Like, if I'm looking
Okay.
at a dress and I'm
Because
like
they're handling it, so they're
because
not.
they're
Yeah.
handling it, and
Yeah.
it's just really they've got people that are going through bags, that are putting clothing on mannequins, that are taking pictures, that are, like and, like, posting and, fast repetitive,
Mhm.
I'm sure, like, that's your day's job is going through a bag or 2 of clothing. So there's nobody to ask questions of, which I find so valuable because I do want to know the exact measurement of that waist. I do want to know the exact measurement of the rise on the pants because
Right.
even though they list it as high rise, that's starting at 10 inches, which having a long torso for me, that's not high rise. You know what I mean? So I'm like, it's not fitting me the way I want, and I can't ask anyone about it. So, um, you definitely, yeah, so I've received items where the measurements were inaccurate, and they'll do like 3 photos of an item. So you
Mhm.
don't get the full image. There's nothing that's really close up, really giving you the texture of the clothing,
Mhm.
which for so many of us, for this purpose, we want that, right? We're searching
Absolutely.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I'm like, yeah, if you're just looking for something to wear to your cousin's wedding this summer, maybe it's great. But if you're looking for, if you are, I don't know, is there some term for like people who are obsessed with textiles? Because that is us. Like there's there's got to be a scientific word for that, right?
Te
So
textiles?
like, yeah, right. Like the bibliophile, right, is someone who loves books, but like, what's the equivalent for fabric? If you're somebody who's really into the fabric and really into the cut of something and you really are looking for these criteria, ThreadUp does not work. So, and you pay for returns if it was listed incorrectly. So I'm like, ugh,
Mhm.
no. Anyway, that's my beef. That's I've cleared the air. That's my deal with ThreadUp.
Okay.
Yeah,
Duly yeah, noted.
I know. Yeah. So on everything, always, like that's my biggest thing is always message the seller, talk about the measurements, talk about the fabric content, talk about their shipping time. Um, that's my biggest takeaway. And if you're buying just off of, some website you don't know, that's not one of these, like always use Trustpilot. Um, yeah, I'm just kind of looking down these. I think I've mentioned everything. Like get yourself a measuring tape, a fabric measuring tape that's really flexible. If you're buying or if you're selling, definitely both. Never trust a seller without a label if your material content is important. And honorable mention at the very bottom, the Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
Um, so the Facebook Marketplace, really quickly, I am terrible at using Facebook Marketplace. I don't
Terrible
know
using
why.
Facebook, period.
Yeah, maybe that's why, because I'm not really good at using it, but you can join specific groups. I do know that there's a Batu group that they're selling stuff that's like you can buy on Batu.
Yeah.
So if you are looking for like a kyber crystal that goes with your outfit, you could check out that group. Um, there are a bunch of resale groups for the Ren Fair, which is what I use it mostly for. I'm like, I'm looking for a leather tunic that I know is sold by this person or whatever, or this maker or something like that, or there's a pair of boots that my husband never wears. I may as well sell them. These are the people that know what they're worth.
Right.
Um, so if you are looking for something that is a super simple tunic, it's got that kind of Ren Fair vibe because some of the Star Wars has that crossover. You could check those out. Or if you are planning for your next local Ren Fair. But yeah, it's not quite as then you have to like arrange like, well, what's your PayPal? Like what's your, all this stuff. So it's not
Right,
as
right, right,
easy.
right.
I have had some lovely folks that I bought from or that I've sold because I've sold a bunch of, Ren gear that I don't use anymore. And, folks follow up with you with like, oh, here's a picture of me at the Colorado Renaissance Festival. Thank you so much again, or whatever, which is super sweet. But it's never my go-to unless there's a very specific thing that I know I'm looking for and it's in
Okay.
that genre. But again, if anyone knows, maybe we need to start a Batu bounding group. I don't know. Like,
I think there's plenty
oh,
on
there's some?
Facebook.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I should, like, look for it more 'cause
they're not very good.
yeah. Okay, good. Oh, okay, good to know. Well, that's there are other sites, I'm
Like,
sure.
which New Balance sneakers goes with this vest? Sorry,
Okay.
sorry,
Just
sorry.
it's more abounding is what you're telling me. Less, like, because there is that it's that gradient, right? It's like cosplay capital C, cosplay
Yeah.
lowercase c, whatever
Yeah,
the
but
heck we do, and then, like, the Batu bounding and, like, the I'm wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt, right? Like, there's the gradient. We have to have a label for that scale.
Mm, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Like, it's on the Richter scale, we'll name it. But, yeah, so those are all my tips and tricks and
Yeah, that's
how I
good. That
find
was
specific
great. Yeah.
things and my rant about ThreadUp.
That was great. I think of all of them, I've used eBay. I've used
Yeah.
it for many, many things. One thing that I'll add to that also for prop makers and kit bashers is that you could look up electronics for parts only,
Nice.
which is a
That's
great,
fantastic.
like, added in your search term, but also
Yeah.
it's like a tick box because
Mhm.
eBay has so many. But
Yes.
as if you're looking for stuff for props, like for parts only is great. You're
Mhm.
gonna get a deal on it. It doesn't work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a thing
Yeah.
that doesn't work. If you're going to take it apart just to like, you know, get at the cogs and
Mhm.
gears of something to use for a build, that's what you want.
Yeah.
want. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna always find everything, but, that's a good place to
Yeah.
find stuff. Yeah.
I've
That
even
was
found
a good way to find
sellers
stuff like that.
Yeah, I've even found sellers actually, my one bag of, like, model parts that I have had
Mhm.
for years for, like, making I've made a couple of versions of, like, my phone case. I just searched, like, kit bashing model parts, and, like, a bunch of
Yeah,
people are on there selling them. I'm like, "Sweet,
yeah,
yes, this is exactly what I need," instead of just waiting for a model to show up at Goodwill and then only using a couple
right.
pieces. Yeah, so, awesome. Well, oh, that was a big topic, but it's
That
very
was good, that
passionate.
was amazing. I was so looking forward to this, so thank you for putting all this
Oh,
together,
it
yeah.
was fun. So send us your questions. I mean, like, if you're like, got any more questions, please send them to me or like
Yeah.
advice or something. But
And
that's
also, like, go out there and
yeah.
find your own, like, local,
Yeah.
secondhand
Yeah.
place.
Ooh.
I know a lot of places are I get these gripes as well, and people
Yeah.
say, like, there just literally are no places around me,
Yeah.
or, on the other end of that spectrum, there's a bunch of places around me, but they're all, like, really expensive, and
Mhm.
I get that.
Yeah.
Even in
Totally.
those 2 places, there might be still one place where you can find stuff.
Yeah.
There are shops that are called like restore
Oh yeah. We
shops.
have a
And a lot of
restore.
times,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times they're like charity run,
Yeah.
um, where it won't pop up in like Google Maps if you're
Mhm.
searching for thrift store,
Yeah.
but it will pop up if you just type in restore as one
Yeah.
store, and it's for to get secondhand items.
Totally.
I'm in Bristol now, which there are a lot of secondhand stores, but there is a range of like some places are selling stuff for like like a kind of a crazy price, and then other
Mhm.
places are like traditional, like
Yeah.
a better priced stuff, and you
Totally.
can find stuff to cut up
You can
and make.
also in the US, like, consignment shops are a thing,
Mhm.
right? Where, like, you can take your clothes in and they're like, "Okay, we'll try and sell it and you'll get this much back." So, like, shop consignment too, those are kinda nice.
Yeah.
And if you're not part of a Buy Nothing group, Buy Nothing started in Seattle and it's alive and well, so those are groups that are, like, Facebook based. I think they have an app now, but you have to pay for the app, so I don't pay for the
Okay.
app, but that's kinda nice, you're not gonna find, like, usually, like, super high-end stuff, but if you're like, "Hey, does anybody have a pair of, old Birkenstock clogs that are falling apart?" Or something like that,
Right.
or maybe it is like, "Hey, does anyone's kid have a model that's missing some pieces?" You could always try things like that there, so, yeah.
Okay.
Alright. Oh my gosh, that was a big one. As always, thank you to the Dad Batch for hosting us and Raimi for being behind the scenes as our producer. I was the only one in this morning and I was like dancing. He's like, I'm here. I can see you. I'm just not on camera. I'm like, good to know, Raimi. Thanks. And remember that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away can be right here and right now.